right, what is up? Brad Stevens is a madman, and he cannot stop handing out contract extensions to fantastic basketball players. Just wanted to hop on to a quick breakdown of the Jrue Holiday extension, and more importantly, what that means for our beloved Derrick White. So Jrue's contract details: 4 years, $135 million. Goddamn, man, must be nice to be 6'4" and very good at basketball. Not something that I can relate to on either front. Alas, that comes out to an annual salary of around $33.75 million, which sounds like a lot, which objectively it's a shitload of money, but that's essentially average NBA starter money at this point. With the way the cap has been going up and up and will be going up and up, that's just pretty much average starter money and a good deal for Jrue Holiday. Even if it gets a little sketchy into that 36, 37 years old range, I think Jrue Holiday is a guy that takes care of himself. It's going to be totally fine. Still going to be a fine value deal. So Jrue Holiday turns down the $37.3 million player option, with the first year of the deal being $30 million. So $7 million in savings in that first year, which is very important for that salary cap and the second apron, which we'll get to. What we know, 4 years, $135, $30 million in the first year, which leaves $35 million annual salary for the last 3 years, and the last year is a player option. So this team is locked up for a minimum of this year and next year. This juggernaut of a team, locked up, barring a catastrophe in the playoffs. Beautiful work by Brad Stevens. So after this deal, you've got Jrue locked up through the 27-28 season, Jalen locked up through the 28-29 season, KP locked up through the 25-26 season, and once Tatum signs his Supermax, he'll be locked up through the 29-30 season. And just imagining 6 more years from Jason Tatum, I feel that right in my soul. At least one man though. One beautiful bald man, our beloved Derrick White. I love how everyone's reaction to this deal was like, awesome, we love Jrue, he's been great, but what does this mean for Derrick? And as credible as Jrue Holiday has been this year, captaining the defense, just elite on that end, everything we could have hoped for on that end, while also having his best shooting season of his career, 44%, 60+% from the corners. He's been the perfect role player. He's sacrificed more than anybody and fully embraced his role on this team. He might be like the most talented 5th guy on a team in NBA history. All that to be said, we know Derrick White's more important. We know what Derrick White means for this team. We know what Derrick White means in the clutch for this team. And more importantly, Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla know that. That's why Derrick White's the point guard. That's why Jrue Holiday has been the 5th guy and the role player on this team. It's very clear to me how the organization feels about Derrick White. It was clear when they traded for Porzingis how they felt about Derrick White. They expected him to be the point guard. They did not know that the Jrue Holiday thing was going to eventuate. We know how they feel about Derrick White. So what does that mean for Derrick going into the offseason? So the Celtics can offer Derrick White an extension, but they can't offer him a Supermax like they can for Tatum and Jalen. On the type of contract that Derrick is on, the CBA allows the Celtics to offer him a 140% raise on his current contract. So essentially they can offer him a 4-year, $125 million contract-ish. Comes out to an annual salary of around $31.25 million. So Derrick's going to have to decide whether or not he takes that deal or waits until the following offseason, where he will just reach unrestricted free agency. Where I think it's pretty obvious that he's played himself into a category where he's going to make more than the $31 million. If I had to guess, I would guess around the 4 for 160, maybe up to the 4 for 180. I use kind of like Fred VanVleet got 41-ish million, but that was on like a short 2-year deal with a team option. So that's the difference between like a $30 million annual salary and a $45 million annual salary. So a pretty big gap. But I will say the 4 years, $125 million to me feels like at least enough to make this a difficult decision for Derrick. Like $125 million is just a nuts amount of money. You take out the risk of a catastrophic injury. You see what happened with Saddiq Bey. He tears his ACL as the season's coming to a close, as he gets towards unrestricted free agency. Who knows what he gets after that? You also just guarantee that you're going to be part of this Celtics core for years to come. Derrick's a family guy. His dad, friend of the podcast, Richard White, Celtics fan. It's a team-friendly deal, but $125 million is going to be, I think, at least difficult for him to say no to. So now, let's say he turns down the $125 million and he goes to unrestricted free agency. That doesn't mean he's leaving. That just means the Celtics can offer him as much as anyone else next offseason. It just could get crazy expensive. And that's when you start talking about maybe moving on from Jrue in the next couple of years, or dare I say Jalen. That's a conversation for another day. Regardless, I would be stunned if Derrick White is not here long term. I'd be stunned if he's not with the Celtics for the next 5 years. If that means you trade Jrue, whatever, I'm pretty confident they understand what Derrick White means to this team. We just got to make sure Al Horford's getting in Derrick's ear, telling him how much of a disaster it was when he left Boston for Philly. Everyone thought he was washed, back to OKC. We brought him home. Everything was good again. So Al Horford, please get in Derrick's ear. Make sure he signs that $125 million deal. So now looking at the second apron stuff. So I just assumed they were going to be a second apron team, but with Jrue Holiday saving them that $7 million, they might actually be able to duck under the second apron. So you look at the Celtics salary situation for next year. Guaranteed salary, $188.188 million guaranteed, with a second apron at $189.557 million. So they're going to be right under the second apron. And you're going to want probably a little more wiggle room. And if you look at this contract situation, there's one name that jumps out to me, and it's Jaden Springer. I think you might want to get ready to learn Washington Wizards, buddy, because I have a feeling you are not long for the Boston Celtics. Don't think that he doesn't have potential. I'm not someone that's super high on his NBA career. I think he's just the offense. I don't really see it. Especially on this team, I don't really see how he develops. When you don't have an offensive game, we don't really have time to develop a 21-year-old with that far to go, in my opinion. I think it's going to be years before his offense comes around where he can be someone that you can really play in the playoffs. Maybe I'm wrong, but he jumps out to me as a guy, that $4 million salary that you move and you bring in someone like O'Shea Brissett, in that $2.4 million, or, Svi Mykhailiuk or Delano Banton, one of those guys. You bring in someone like that on a veteran's minimum, you save yourself $2 million, you get further away from the apron, and you save yourself actually like a good chunk of tax money. Now, a common misconception I hear about the Celtics and their contract situation is like, you can't pay everybody. Second apron, etc., etc. You actually can pay everybody. You're just going to have to spend into the second apron. And when we talk about the second apron, why is it so scary? It's because once you get into the second apron, it's actually quite difficult to make roster moves. You can't aggregate salaries. Your draft picks 7 years in the future get frozen. You can't move those. Your draft picks get moved to the end of the first round every year. And it's actually not that big of a deal for a team like the Celtics, in my opinion. You can still trade Jrue Holiday for someone that makes less than him and still attach a draft pick. Where you really get into trouble is if you're a team like the Suns, where you decide to be a second apron team before we even know what the team looks like. Like, they've become a second apron team, and they're going to maybe miss the playoffs. Whereas the Celtics are committing to, and they might duck their second apron, but they're going to probably be a second apron for at least 1 or 2 years as the supermaxes of Jalen and Jason kick in. But at least they're guaranteeing that they're a contender. Like, as Jalen and Jason get older and better, this team just won 62 games. By the time you watch this video, they may have won 63 or 64 games. You're guaranteeing a contender. And so you're not as worried about making moves when you know the team you've got is a contender. Now, you can have depth concerns, but on a team with this top-end talent, it's almost like top-end depth. Your top 6 are so good, it makes the roles of someone like Hauser and Pritchard a lot easier. And I believe in the Brad Stevens team to find guys on the margin. Hauser, they've got Pritchard locked up for 4 more years at a really good number. Jordan Walsh dominating for the main Celtics in the championship at the moment. Can they find guys in the second round? Can they trade up this year? They've got 3 picks in the draft. They're going to have the 30th overall pick plus a couple second rounders. Can they move into the teens in what is supposed to be a bad top end draft, but can find some gems, role players? I like that Spencer guy for UConn. I can see him and Pritchard going head to head in practice already. And I think at this point, we just have to take a step back and be like, I trust Brad Stevens. In my opinion, he has earned the benefit of the doubt. Look at all the moves that he's made. His first move, Kemba for Horford. One of the most underrated trades of the past 5 years. The Derrick White trade, genius, beloved Celtic. The Porzingis trade, was just a heist. They got the best player in the trade and somehow got the most draft assets, just terribly managed by Washington, unsurprisingly. The Brogdon trade, solid, not quite the home run I think some of us thought it was going to be. It's still a really good move and led to the Jrue Holiday trade. The only move that hasn't been like a home run was the Schroeder non-taxpayer mid-level exception signing, which is really a margin move. And Brad immediately moved off that at the deadline, which brought back old friend Daniel Tice, which led to the Brogdon trade, which led to the Jrue trade. In Brad Stevens, we trust. Hope you liked the video. Welcome to the team for another couple of years, Jrue Holiday. Please sign the 4-year, $125 million deal, Derrick White. Please like and subscribe. We're going to be back talking about the Celtics way too much over the next few weeks. Please like and subscribe. Until next time, go Celtics.